Good evening and welcome to the Carnegie Town Hall. The regular meeting of the City Planning Commission will be called to order and we will begin with a few introductory remarks. The City of Sioux Falls Planning Commission serves as the advisory board to the City Council. It is a responsibility of the Planning Commission to consider and make recommendation on land use and zoning matters. Conditional use permits and minor amendment requests will have final action here this evening, unless appealed to the City Council in writing within 5 days. Any decision made on preliminary subdivision plans or future land use amendment requests tonight will be referred to the City Council for final action at the third council meeting of the month. Any decision made on rezoning requests, major amendments, or ordinance amendments tonight will be referred to the City Council for final action at the first council meeting of the month. Council meetings are held at 7 p.m. here in the Carnegie Town Hall and are televised. Any action taken here tonight on a final development plan is final. The Planning Commission will first approve the consent agenda and then the regular agenda. In order to place certain non-controversial items on the Commission's consent agenda, planning staff and the Planning Commission applies the following criteria. First, the request conforms with the City 2015 Land Use Plan. Second, the planning staff recommends approval of the request. And third, there are no audience members present or written comments received in opposition to the request. And fourth, the application meets all conditions and requirements of the ordinance. Once the consent agenda items are approved, you are free to leave. For the regular agenda, the following normal public hearing procedure will be followed. By first requesting planning staff to present a brief report on each item. Second, the petitioner will be requested to come forward and make a statement or answer questions. After the petitioner, anyone from the audience who wishes to address a particular agenda item shall be recognized. Then, the Planning Commission will discuss the matter further and take appropriate action. We ask that anyone addressing the Planning Commission other than staff move to the podium microphone, identify themselves, and state their address for the record. Please limit your comments to less than 5 minutes. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, we ask you please either turn off or silence your cell phone and pager. This meeting is being televised on Channel 16 and will be rebroadcast Saturday at 10 a.m., Tuesday at 7 p.m., and Wednesday at 1 a.m. Thank you for your cooperation.
Good evening, and welcome to Carnegie Town Hall. First on the agenda, we are going to read the consent agenda. And I would just like to make one comment about the testimony tonight. If you are with a neighborhood group, please designate one person as your spokesperson and limit your comments to 5 minutes. Thank you very much. The first item on the consent agenda are number 1, approval of January 7th, 2009 minutes of the regular meeting. Number 2, plats. Number 3, 2009-01-03 is a rezone from the RD residential district to the RA-2 residential district for allowed uses at 1227 East 8th Street and 131 North Sherman Avenue. Number 4 is a 2009-01-05 rezone from the agricultural district to the RS2 residential district and RD residential district for allowed uses at the southwest corner of East 41st Street and South 6 Mile Road. Number 5, 2009-01-01, conditional use permit in the RS2 residential district to allow the construction of duplexes at 4329 North Alaska Avenue and 4320 North Colorado Avenue. Number 6, 2009-01-06, conditional use permit in the C2 General Commercial District to allow an on-sale alcohol establishment at 3224 East 10th Street. Number 7, 2008-12-17 is a minor amendment in Subarea C of the Avera-McKinnon Planned Development District to reduce the required front yard setback from 25 feet to 10 feet and the rear yard setback to 1 foot at South 8th Avenue and East 23rd Street. Number 8, 2009-01-11, a minor amendment in Subarea B of the Maple Mall Addition Planned Development District to allow for the construction of an apartment complex at the southeast corner of North Maple Lane and West Innovation Street. Number 9, 2009-01-04, final development plan in Subarea B of the Taylor Planned Development District to construct a 4-unit townhome at the intersection of West 58th Street and South Sarmar Avenue. And that completes the consent agenda. Are there any objections from the audience to any item listed on the consent agenda?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
My name is Dave Loveland, and I will be representing staff on this and other items. We have received phone calls on item number 5, which is 2009-01-01, the conditional use permit to allow the construction of townhomes in the RS2 district. And so we would like to ask that be moved to the regular agenda so we can have public testimony on that item.
Okay, thank you. We will move that to the, and that will be the first item on the agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
one quick question. I'm in receipt of a letter that was, I believe, sent to the Planning Commission yesterday. I believe it's from one of the neighbors, and I notice my fellow commissioners here don't have a copy of that letter.
I don't have a letter either, unless it, what form of the letter?
Well, it was addressed to the Sioux Falls Planning Commission from, I believe, a neighbor up on North Alaska. It was dated February 3rd. Are you saying the Planning Commission did not
I didn't
get
receive
this
the letter. No, I didn't. I don't think our office received it, at least not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes. Are there any objections from the Planning Commission members to any item listed on the consent agenda? Okay, if none, I would call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the revised consent agenda.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to approve the revised consent agenda. Now we will move on to the regular agenda. Oh, sorry about that. We have a motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, regular agenda. We'll put number 5 first.
Good evening again. I'm here to represent staff on item 5, which is a conditional use permit in the RS2 residential district to allow the construction of townhomes. The property address, as you stated on the consent agenda reading, was 4329 North Alaska Avenue and 4320 North Colorado Avenue. The applicant's requesting the conditional use permit to construct townhomes. In the RS2 residential district, townhomes or duplexes are a conditional use, and single families allowed by right. If they were if they were in the RD district, duplexes are allowed by right in those. The applicant is Sue Olson for Habitat for Humanity. The total size of the 2 parcels is just over half an acre, and the existing land uses are vacant. The conditional use standard for dwelling units is dwellings should be located in areas where they are compatible with adjacent uses with regard to traffic, size, density, and other significant factors. The applicant has indicated their intention of splitting the lots into 2 parcels in order to sell the units as townhomes once construction is complete. But because the application has provided clarity to indicate the location, nature, and extent of the work proposed and requires a complete plan check by Zoning and Building Services prior to obtaining a building permit, we are recommending approval of the conditional use permit. That concludes staff report. I can answer any questions.
Any questions from the Planning Commission?
Madam Chair, in this letter that I read, a neighbor is expressing some concern regarding traffic on that particular street. I drove out there today. It's a street that's just partially completed.
That's correct.
I believe, is that going to be designated it won't be an arterial, but it'll certainly be a collector street. Would that be a major or a minor collector
Well,
street?
if it's a collector, it'll most likely be a minor collector, although we haven't gotten word from engineering yet at this time on how the pace of development goes. The reason that it wouldn't be a major collector is because it ends just about a mile to the west. You're correct in that it is a collector. It is a half mile. So how it's determined by the engineering office would be likely a minor collector.
I noticed on the housing development, all the lots, it was engineered for no driveways to come out on that particular street. I think just recently, probably in the last year or so, there were some townhouses built along the west edge of this development that do exit out onto the street. Obviously, staff doesn't feel there's a problem with driveways exiting onto the street.
We don't think so. There's other examples around the city of driveways on collector roads, especially minor collectors. I think some of the concern with this location is that the north half of the street has not yet been finished. But it does need to be finished, and will be the responsibility of the landowner on that side of the street to finish it.
David, thank you. I just wanted to maybe answer that question for somebody in regards to traffic and parking on that particular street.
Yep.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
David, the parcel to the north is, I believe, the site for the university, the new university center?
That's correct. I think
so. Over time, that'll develop into academic buildings?
Yep. The state has possession of that entire parcel.
Okay. Thank you.
Is the petitioner here? Come forward. Please state your name and address.
I'm Sue Olson from Habitat for Humanity. Our address is 721 East Amadon Street in Sioux Falls.
Okay. Any questions for Sue?
Sue, I might just have a couple. Does Habitat for Humanity own other lots in this particular development?
Yes.
Your guys' I've certainly heard about Habitat for Humanity. There's a lot of volunteer work that goes into both new construction and rehab. Is the game plan to build houses in this development for resale? But I think your goal is to try to achieve affordable housing?
Yes.
Through volunteerism and
no interest loans. Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. When you looked at these particular lots, they're fairly good size. I think there's going to be some concern about these being twin homes versus houses. Was the size of these lots looked at, was the idea of maybe splitting these lots and creating two lots out of one and building houses versus a twin home, was that entertained or looked at at all?
The guiding principles in deciding that this was the best use of our land were really the cost of the land and the taxes, the location of the land, both parcels facing 54th Street on the north end of the development, the adjacentness to other multifamily dwellings. The one lot did not seem feasible, but we felt that the best use of the land and our resources was indeed to place the twin homes.
And I'm not sure if there's neighbors here in favor or against it. Would it surprise you if there were some neighbors here that weren't in favor of twin homes on these particular lots?
My response is that the decision and the desire to build twin homes, in our opinion, is dependent on the availability of resources, the ability to fit well into the neighborhood, the ability to provide affordable housing, and the ability to comply with all city ordinances and statutes that control our business.
When you build these are not for rental, these are for resale.
These are homes. When we enter into agreement to build a home, we've already selected the family. We have secured the financing. When the home is completed, we sell the home to the homeowner. We then become the lender. The terms of the mortgage prevent the owner from any sort of leasing or rental opportunity.
Susan, thank you for
thank
explaining
you.
that to me.
Thank you. Anyone from the audience wishing to address this?
We do have some neighbors, we just have to figure out which ones to give us speak.
Looks like we have a winner.
Good evening. My name is Mark Giese. I live at 4325 North Colorado Avenue, across the street from one of the proposed twin homes. Our major concern in talking with our neighbors, first off, you mentioned 54th Street, and you mentioned that you drove past it as partial street. You also mentioned that it's owned by the Board of Regents right now. Last year, when they were proposing, I believe it was last year, if I'm not correct, that they had the meeting at Southeast Votech as far as the property, they stated to us they have in their plans it's going to take 30 years to get the campus out to 54th Street. Now, I talked with engineering. They said it's the Board of Regents' responsibility to finish off that street. 54th Street, then, by default, won't be finished for 30 years. As you mentioned, you drove past 54th Street. That is an accident waiting to happen as it is, with parking on both sides of the street. Multifamily housing definitely would not assist in that problem. We purchased our house with the understanding, going through the lots, that that was going to be single-family homes, which we have, which our neighbors have, and that was our understanding. That's why we built there. That's why we would oppose a twin home. We would welcome them as a regular house. We would welcome them as neighbors, not a twin home. The other fact, and I guess you might have to get clarification from the staff, I was told when we purchased our house, the plan was for 54th Street to continue on to, I believe you call it Innovation Drive now, and so it wouldn't be a dead end. It would connect there, making it a secondary snow route. And I would assume with the college there, you would probably have a larger arterial flow. Now that, once again, does not make it conducive to having a multi-family dwelling like a twin home right there. Are there any questions from the council at all as far as our concerns?
I noticed when you said, how many homeowners are here
I believe
that
currently
you're speaking
3.
for?
My other neighbors that are here are actually on Alaska. I'm not as much familiar as far as from my street. I'm the only
Would
one
that
that's
be
here.
the west lot or the east lot?
That would be the west lot.
You live by the west or the east lot?
I live across the street from the east lot.
From the east lot. If these were houses, the
Not a
neighborhood would
problem.
not be here.
No. I would probably be, if I had time, I'd be over there helping them build it.
Well said.
My church, as a matter of fact, has built some of the houses in that, one of the houses in the development last year. I would not have a problem whatsoever with a single-family dwelling.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mark? Okay, thank you. Okay,
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Would it be possible to talk to staff one more time?
sure. Dave?
David, when Habitat came in to talk about these particular lots, was there any discussion about the possibility of separating these lots into individual lots? Was
Not-
that looked at or discussed at all?
Well, not at first, because our understanding at first, and I think it was a misunderstanding, was that these were going to be rental units, and through the process, we clarified that they would be townhomes and that they were going to be splitting the lots to reflect that they were townhouses. So we did not ask them if they were going to do single-family or if that had been a consideration of theirs.
I notice on one of the plans, the backyard setback is 15 feet.
Right.
That would be the requirement?
Yes. Yep.
On the lot to the west, I noticed the backyard, and this was probably just simply by design, I believe that backyard setback was 25 feet.
Well, the issue that they run into is that on corner lots, the rear yard setback requirement is 15 feet, and so when they're talking about splitting off these lots, then they need to make sure that they've got 25 feet for the lot that will then not be a corner lot. So what you see is that they've done 25 feet for this plan here that Steve is showing, and on the rear yard setback, and then on the other one, if you could.
I think this one is the 15-foot rear yard, isn't it?
See, it's 15 foot there, but there's another 10 feet up to the actual structure.
Okay.
So
they could have it back to 15 feet, though.
They can have it to 15 feet on corner lots, but that's what we needed them to reflect a 25-foot yard setback, at least for their unit that would not be on the corner lot then. So.
Okay, thank you, David.
Yep.
Any other questions?
So in a sense, you're saying that there would be room to do two?
Well,
separate?
It would be, I haven't done that calculation, and I don't think that they've gone through the calculation to figure out whether those lots would fit to single-family homes or not. My guess is that probably they wouldn't. So,
David, one other question since they've sat down. Do you know, was there any neighborhood meeting, or was it suggested to Habitat to maybe meet with some of the adjacent neighbors to show what they were going to do?
Not initially, no. But we did tell them that that they may face some opposition because of the duplex nature. But we didn't tell them to conduct a neighborhood meeting.
So would looking at these plans tonight be the first time some of the neighbors have had a chance to see this?
We've had some neighbors in our office to come look at them because the posting of the signs alerted a lot of the neighbors, I think, that there was a plan for the duplexes on those lots. So,
thank you, David.
Yep.
Thanks. Any other discussion? Okay. Call for a motion.
Madam Chair, I don't personally believe that twin homes are multifamily. And considering where this is at and the fact that it's ultimately going to be a buffer between the residential neighborhood and the university, and that having some knowledge of what was planned on 54th Street, I do believe that's going to go through to the east. I would make the motion to approve this conditional use permit.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
After having went out and looked at these sites, I think the site to the east, I could see where some neighbors could have some concern. I don't think anybody is against Habitat for Humanity. But as I sit there and look at that lot, it's single-family to the east of it, completely single-family to the south, completely single-family to the west. I could see, although it's an allowed use, I could see where just putting a twin home in there, I think could affect the looks of that particular area of the neighborhood right there. Now, that being said, the lot to the west, I look at as a bit of a continuation of some, I believe, townhouses that were built. In that same block is some multifamily to the west. I could see a twin home sitting in there and not really affecting the neighborhood. And Lord knows I love Habitat for Humanity, and I don't want anybody to think I don't. I think if this was can we put a twin home on the west lot? I think the east lot should be left single family and explored, divided in half, and seen if they could get two houses there. If there was a motion to that effect, it's certainly something that I could support. Just to put two twin homes on both lots, I just don't feel I could support that this evening. I don't know if somebody have to explain Robert's Rules of Order to me. I would make that motion, but I don't know if we have to deal with it.
We already have a motion on the table, so we'll have to just vote on that and then take it from there.
Okay.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
Aye.
Yeah, could we have a show of hands? All of those in favor? Opposed? You guys are going to make this tough on me tonight, aren't you?
We should add, this is
First
Madam
meeting.
Chair's first evening of being the chairperson this evening.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to vote in favor because of the zoning issue. So, motion passed. Okay, item number 10, revised conditional use permit in the I-1 Light Industrial District to allow motor vehicle display and sales at 1700 North Cliff Avenue.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Could I request if the applicant is here this evening, Mr. Scarborough or their representative?
Is Mr. Scarborough here?
Here he comes.
Erica is going to check in the other room.
Okay.
This is an item that is a resubmittal of a conditional use permit that you had heard before and acted on for motor vehicle display and sales. Erica is indicating the petitioner is not here. I'll leave it to your pleasure as to how to proceed.
I would suggest we defer it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to defer.
Probably need a motion to defer.
I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to defer.
I'll second it. Okay, motion's been made and seconded to defer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we move on to number 11. Preliminary subdivision plan in sub-area D of the Westwood Valley Plan Development District for residential lots at T. Ellis Road and West 32nd Street.
Madam Chair, if I may, I would like to make a presentation that includes items 11, 12, and 13.
Okay?
Item 12 would be a minor amendment in the same location to reduce non-party wall setback requirements from 10 feet to 7 feet for the proposed project. And item 13 would be a final development plan for the same project at the same location. Item 11 is a preliminary subdivision plan in sub-area D of the Westwood Valley Plan Development for residential and office lots. It's a total of a 13-acre site that includes both the residential and office lights. The applicant is proposing to run an interior road that would serve residential and office, and then there is a perimeter row of residential lots that would be served off an existing street. The only other existing site improvements include a telecommunication tower that's at the north end of a long block of residential units. The requirements of that tower are that it be at least a fall-down distance away from the setback of any residential use. The applicant has indicated that on the preliminary subdivision and has provided the required information for subdivision plans in a lot, block, and street layout. To the north of the subject property, there are single-family residential in the RS2 residential district. To the south, it's a drainage and conservation area in sub-area G of the PD. To the east, it's future multifamily and office uses in the Roosevelt Park PD on the other side of the arterial street. And to the west, it's future single-family residential development in sub-area A of the PD and some conservation land in sub-area G of the PD. This preliminary subdivision plan is a requirement in order to consider the final development plan in item number 13 and also the minor amendment in item 12. The subdivision plan for the entire planned development district was approved in 2003 and again in 2004, so the limits of this subdivision plan are set. It's simply the interior subdivision of the lots that we're looking at. The street that they're proposing is a public street, and they are right now working with the city engineers to determine the final status of that street, whether it's public or private. Lots that are fronting onto this street may be addressed and come back to you for final development plan approval of non-residential lots or for multifamily lots. The applicant has indicated on the subdivision plan that the lots that are being subdivided along the interior street would be held in condominium ownership. They'd be single lot development of fourplexes with condominium ownership of the individual units. That is all acceptable within the PD and is permitted. The applicant should verify that the height of the tower does not exceed the required distance away from residential uses. Because this plan offers coordination of the urban infrastructure and fosters efficient and orderly community urban growth, staff is recommending approval of the preliminary subdivision plan. Now, looking to item 12 as a minor amendment in order to construct the units on those lots, the applicant is requesting a minor amendment for 2.62 acres of the lots identified. North of those lots, it is still vacant in the sub-area D of the PD, as well as to the south and to the east. To the west, future single-family residential development in sub-area A of the PD and conservation land in sub-area G of the PD are indicated. When this sub-area was approved as part of the zoning plan for planned development, we referenced RA1 as the underlying zoning district for development of multifamily units. In the RA1, a 10-foot side yard setback is required. However, the applicant is proposing to develop the subject property for fourplex lots to be again divided or subdivided into individual single-family attached units, up to 4 units attached. The only difference between the RA1 and the RD for this type of unit to be developed is the side yard setback. In the RD district, if we had referenced that, it would only be a 7-foot side yard setback. However, they are being held to the 10-foot side yard setback because that's what it says in the ordinance. Therefore, the request for a minor amendment to reduce that requirement. Staff is in support of that because the physical characteristics of the property are not changing, whether it's RD or RA1 underlying zoning districts, and are recommending approval. In item 13, we get to the final development plan for the units themselves. Here we have a checklist of 16 items to be considered as a complete submittal, complete application. There was only one item that was not complete, and that was the last item on the 16-point checklist, and that was to reference the underlying zoning district requirements, which we just now amended for the side yard setback. We can take a look at this 2.62 acre site and its impact within the development and on adjacent developments and see that it's pretty well self-contained. The units across the street to the west would be impacted to the extent that parking requirements would actually be reduced when the lots are subdivided into 4 attached units. If it were a fourplex building on one lot, they would be required to provide 6 parking spots on site and no parking allowed in the front yard. By subdividing each lot into 4 attached units, only 1 parking spot is required for each unit, therefore only 4 parking spots per what was previously 1 lot are required. That is the only difference, really, between the development of the lots as shown. The units, style, design, everything else stays pretty much the same. The landscaping plan indicates trees to be planted in front of the units, but not in the front yard. However, once the lots are subdivided, that landscaping requirement goes away. It will be up to Zoning and Building Services to reference that in the building permit that landscaping requirements have to be met until the lots are subdivided. Building design indicates single-story residential frame buildings with floor slab on grade. Exterior wall materials are not noted but appear to be residential style lap siding and wood shingles. Roof pitch and materials are 412 roof pitch, and roofing material is not noted but appears to be asphalt shingles. It does conform to the height regulations. Floor plans are provided for typical 2-bedroom units attached, and a seating plan is not applicable. There are no other design review regulations, and because the subject application is complete for this public hearing and parking is proposed for attached units on separate lots to be replatted and otherwise requires a complete plan check by Zoning and Building Services for compliance with zoning, and Building Code staff is recommending approval of the final development plan. We've received no calls from the neighborhood or any other property owners in the area, and that concludes staff report.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone from the audience wishing to address this?
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, my name is Damian Grebel. I'm with Earhart Griffin and Associates, 300 North Dakota Avenue, Suite 114, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I would like to address items 11, 12, and 13 as I am the engineer on all 3 items. We did have a neighborhood meeting for these 3 items. I spoke with the neighbors to the north who said they were in favor of all 3 projects. I also spoke with the people that represented the Family Wellness Center out there, and they also stated that they were in favor of the projects. They'd like to see more rooftops, more houses out there, obviously, for their own business. We do not have any objections to staff recommendations, and we would appreciate your recommendation for approval. And if you have any questions, I'd like to answer them.
Any questions for Damian?
Madam Chair, Damian, in my short tenure here in Sioux Falls, I wanted to add that this is one of the finest looking subdivisions to come before the Commission, and I certainly would be one commissioner supporting this.
Thank you.
That's quite a compliment coming from him. Any other questions?
That's a tough act to follow, Amanda.
Yeah.
So I think we should make a motion to approve item number 11.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded for item number 11. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, come on now, somebody's got to give him some kind of a heart attack, don't they?
Still 3 items left.
Yeah. Okay, item number 12.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Number 13.
Motion to approve final development plan, item 13.
Second, with some reservations.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, number 13 passes. Number 14, final development plan in sub-area A of the Southeast Technical Institute Plan Development District to construct a career and technical education academy at the northeast corner of Terry Avenue and West Madison.
The applicant's coming before you tonight to construct a new facility for the Sioux Falls School District, which would represent a new type of programming at the high school level. It's a career and technical academy at the northeast corner of Terry Avenue and West Madison Street, effectively just west of I-29. And as a side note, I forgot to mention to you earlier that you may have noticed that the aerials are new, that these are the updated aerials from April of this year. So anyway, so as you can see on your screen, just west of I-29 and just north of Madison Street is the proposed location for the structure. The applicants are Steve Jastrom of Architecture Incorporated, and the owner is Jeff Kreider of the Sioux Falls School District. The size of the parcel is about 20 acres, and it is currently vacant. The history of this site was the Southeast Technical Institute Plan Development District was initially zoned in October of 1999 and has seen fairly continuous development of apartments and the Southeast Tech campus since that time. The Career and Technical Academy is designed to enhance educational opportunities in the Sioux Falls area by creating the technical and career tracks for students' educational programs. And it is expected that several area school districts besides just Sioux Falls will be participating in the programs by sending students up to Sioux Falls for those types of tracks. As you can see on some of the submitted material, the landscaping plan, the tree count total includes 120 trees, so they're well in excess of the requirements. And that includes parking lot trees. They've got a theme where they have yellow trees on the south side of a dividing line for fall color and red to purple trees on the north side of the dividing line. Signs, they would be allowed to have, they haven't shown signs on their submitted material, but they'd be allowed 100 square feet for 9 feet tall for a freestanding sign, and the wall signs would be allowed at 1 square foot allowed for every 5 feet of road frontage on one front and 1 square feet for every 10 feet of road frontage on the second frontage. The exterior wall materials have been indicated as being precast concrete wall panels with a brick veneer, and a glass curtain wall will be installed at the front entrance of the building. Maximum height of 55 feet is allowed in the district. The current plans show that the structure will be around 30 feet. Water is available to the site. The applicant should be aware that a cost recovery program is in effect for the sewer district, or for the sewer in that area, and the applicant should be prepared to meet with the city engineer's office to determine detention requirements for BMP if there are any. Because the subject application has a minimal impact on surrounding properties and provides a well-designed structure and site plan, we are recommending approval of the final development plan with one stipulation, and that is the stipulation that black ash, green ash, or other ash tree varieties shall comprise no more than 10% of the total deciduous shade tree count as recommended by the city forester. A landscape plan specifying the exact species and variety of each tree shall be submitted as part of the plan check. We've received no calls on this item, and that concludes staff report.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here?
Good evening. I'm Steve Jastrom with Architecture Incorporated, 415 South Main Avenue here in Sioux Falls. And I'm really here just if you have any questions of any kind related to the project.
Any questions of Steve?
Madam Chair, it's not a question, Steve. It just looks like an interesting site plan. Aesthetically, it looks like it's going to be a nice building up on that campus, and I think we're all looking forward to what this will bring to Sioux Falls. So, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Anyone from the audience wishing to address this? If not, we will call for a motion.
Motion to approve item 14 with one stipulation. Second.
Any discussion?
Meredith is sure full of compliments tonight.
I know. He's trying to be as easy on me as possible tonight.
Some are genuine.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Number 15, final development plan in subareas C and D of the Westwood Valley Plan Development District to construct apartment buildings at West 32nd Street and Broke Drive.
The purpose of this application is to approve the construction of 48 residential apartments in 6 buildings on the subject property. Applicants and owners are represented by Joan Franken, Grant Square Limited Partnership, and Ken Dunlap, manager, Westwood Valley Corporation. It's a 5.8-acre site, currently vacant. South of the subject property, it's future commercial, in Subarea E of Westwood Valley PD. Or excuse me, to the north, I should say it's future commercial. To the south, it's future residential in Subarea C, and to the east, future residential or office in Subarea H, and to the west, west side transportation corridor and future commercial in Subarea E of Westwood Valley PD. This planned development district was put together with the idea of having adjoining uses that are residential, non-residential, and transitional. Therefore, there were other regulations indicated in the PD sub-area regs to apply to any development that came forward as a final development plan, and those are listed in your report. For sub-area D, development shall coincide with completion of proper street and utility improvements. An approved signage plan, preliminary subdivision plan, and access plan for the sub-area is required. Approved landscape buffer at the north sub-area boundary is required with the final development plan. And street trees shall be placed at 40-foot interval spacing along the parkway. Other regulations in sub-area C include development coinciding with proper street and utility improvements, an approved signage plan, and preliminary subdivision plan and access plan, and also a combination of earth berms, shrubs, and trees to be placed and utilized to buffer the residential area from the parkway. That is, those are the other regulations that would apply to this project. Consulting engineers and project architects are listed for your reference. The application for buildings located on both sides of a driveway running north from the turnaround on Carmia Circle. The applicant should verify the proposed addressing plan for buildings and emergency vehicle access requirements with the city engineering and city fire marshal. That's just a general note. Because of the limited site access, and the applicant is aware of that they have to do that. Getting to the landscaping, basically we start having to deal with those sub-area regulations that I referenced. The plan notes indicate a total of 38 deciduous trees with 1 3/4 inch minimum caliper being planted on the subject property, and staff comments that a minimum of 13 trees to be planted in the Parkway Street Boulevard along sub-area D. A minimum of 15 trees are required in the minimum front yard landscape setback along the Parkway 100-foot right-of-way indicated on the plan, and a minimum of 5 trees are required in the minimum front yard landscape setback along the circle right-of-way. Parking lot screening notes on the plans indicate that they are meeting those requirements as required. The number, size, and species of plant materials is not provided, but will be required for a building permit, and staff recommends that a variety of tree species be provided according to the formula that is referenced in the stipulations. Staff notes that sub-area regulations also require an approved landscape buffer at the north sub-area boundary with this plan. The applicant has indicated on the plan the nature of the proposed buffer, and that's described in your report. They are proposing to use open space in an off-site portion of a future development on the north side of Brook Drive and future off-site drainage channel, and an unimproved portion of an on-site gas pipeline easement to provide this buffer of open space and distance to any non-residential development on the north side of the street. They are also proposing street trees to be placed at 40-foot interval spacing along the parkway. The trees do need to be shown on the plan when they come in for their building permit, so that they will be required to put those in after the street has been constructed. Of course, you know, when they put in the street, they kind of tear everything up, and wouldn't do any good to plant those trees now. They just get kind of torn out later, but they have to be shown on the plan, and so we're going to ask for a revised site plan to indicate those. Also, a combination of earth berms, shrubs, and trees will be utilized to buffer this residential area from the parkway, and that also has to be shown on the plan in order to obtain a building permit. Since it is not shown on the plan at the present time, we can go forward with a recommendation for approval if that's acceptable to you, with review and approval by the planning director. There are no signs indicated on the project, either wall or building or freestanding. Building design is indicated as two-story residential apartment building with exterior wall materials, residential style fiber cement siding, and brick veneer. It's an 812 roof pitch with composition shingles and fall stormers. A proposed height of 35 feet conforms to the height limitation of 45 feet, and floor plans are provided indicating 2 3-bedroom units and 8 enclosed garages on the main level. Upper floor plan indicates 2 3-bedroom units and 4 2-bedroom units with decks accessible by enclosed stairwells. We went out to Hartford and took a look at the same plan that's been constructed out there, and we're pretty impressed with the quality of the apartment buildings as constructed. And they're proposing to do the same. They've provided us with photographs that were taken at the opening in September, and you can see that the quality is there as far as the design is concerned. Given the 16 points required for a final development plan submittal, we believe that they have complied with all except for item 5, which is not provided but would be required for a building permit, and that's outdoor lighting type and location. Item 13 is not provided and is required for a building permit, and that's documentation of ownership and maintenance responsibility of any common open spaces, structures, or facilities, including private streets or driveways. And item 16, which references the sub-area of underlying zoning district requirements, which would be RA1. Because the application is an allowed use in the PD and otherwise conforms to the sub-area regulations as noted, staff is recommending approval with the following stipulation. It's a stipulation in parts. Part 1A is that street trees be placed at 40-foot interval spacing on a revised site plan along the parkway, that a combination of earth berms, shrubs, and trees to buffer the residential area from the parkway be indicated on that plan, and that a variety of black ash, green ash, or other ash tree varieties to be comprising no more than 10% of the total shade tree count as recommended by the city forester in the published street tree guide. And that concludes staff report. We've had no calls from any neighbors.
Any questions of Steve? Okay. Is the petitioner here?
John Schmidt with Civil Design Incorporated, 401 East A Street, and we're here to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions of John? Thank you, John. Anyone from the audience wishing to address this?
Just a comment, if you would note for the record who stepped down from the vote.
Oh, okay. Thank you. For the record, Jesse Schmidt and Ken Dunlap have stepped down. Okay. Call for a motion.
I'll move for approval of item 15 with the proposed stipulation.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, number 16 is the adoption of the bylaw amendments.
You have been all provided in your packets with a copy of the bylaws that have been edited after, I believe we sent out a draft copy and then got your comments on those. The reason behind the clarification on some of our bylaws is basically mostly clerical, just to revise some of the locations and lettering of some of the words that may have been misspelled earlier, and also to bring our bylaws for the Planning Commission in line with some of the other boards and commissions that we have under the Planning and Building Services Department. So that's staff report for that.
Thank you. Any questions about the bylaws? Okay. If no questions, I'll call for a motion. Motion to accept the bylaws. I'll second. Any discussion? Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 17, adjournment.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.